Why do Americans tip? If you think it's just about showing gratitude, you're missing the real story. The truth is, tipping was never really about being polite. To understand why it's so ingrained in American culture, we need to travel back in time, all the way to the 19th century. Believe it or not, tipping wasn't an American invention. It was a custom brought over from Europe by wealthy travelers who had seen it on their trips. And at first, Americans absolutely hated it. They thought it was fundamentally un-American. The idea of creating a system where one person was expected to give extra money to another felt like it was creating social classes and inequality, which went against the democratic ideals the country was founded on. Editorials were written, and people publicly condemned the practice. It seemed like tipping would never catch on. But then, everything changed after the Civil War. The end of slavery brought millions of newly freed African Americans into the workforce, but many businesses, particularly in the service industry, were looking for ways to avoid paying them fair wages. This is where tipping found its dark opportunity. In restaurants and Pullman train cars, employers saw a clever way to shift the responsibility of paying their workers from the business owner to the customer. Instead of paying a full, livable wage, they started allowing their employees, many of whom were black, to earn tips. This meant the business could get away with paying next to nothing, and the workers' income depended entirely on the generosity of customers, which was often inconsistent and racially biased. This system spread like wildfire because it was incredibly profitable for business owners. By the early 20th century, tipping was no longer just an option, it had become an expectation. What started as a way to exploit labor was now being framed as a social norm. The practice became so common that it started to influence labor laws. Eventually, laws were passed that formalized this system. The government created something called a tipped minimum wage, which allowed employers to pay their workers far below the standard minimum wage, with the legal assumption that tips would make up the difference. This is the critical turning point. Tipping was no longer a personal choice or a simple gesture of thanks. It was now a structural part of the economic system. It became a way for businesses to legally underpay their staff, putting the financial burden directly on you, the customer. And with this came immense social pressure. Think about it. When you're at a restaurant in the US and the bill comes, not leaving a tip doesn't feel like a neutral decision, does it? It feels wrong. You might feel guilt, shame, or worrying that you're being judged. That's because the system was designed to make you feel that way. The pressure isn't just in your head. It's a direct result of a system where a server's ability to pay their rent relies on that 15 to 20% you add to the bill. So today, when you see that tip line on your receipt, remember that you're looking at a piece of history. It's not just about rewarding good service. It's about labor laws, social dynamics, and a century-old economic model that shifts responsibility from businesses to customers. That's the real reason tipping exists and feels so mandatory in America. It wasn't built on politeness. It was built into the system. Thanks for watching. If you want to uncover more of the hidden histories behind the things we do every day, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more.